Let's get started with our first piece of news, and it's a heated one. Charles Oliveira has fired back at Max Holloway. The former UFC lightweight champion Oliveira is confident that he'll eventually run it back with Holloway, and he's not shying away from the idea of settling unfinished business inside the octagon. These two have history. Their first meeting goes all the way back to 2015, and it's a fight that still sparks conversation today. In that matchup, Holloway picked up the win via first-round TKO, but it wasn't your typical stoppage. Oliveira went down clutching his neck and shoulder area, and it was later reported that he had injured his esophagus. The fight ended abruptly, leaving fans confused, commentators puzzled, and critics questioning what really happened. For years, the ending has hung in the air like an unresolved storyline, and recently Holloway decided to stir the pot by questioning whether that injury was even legitimate. Speaking on the matter, Holloway said, "There's also Oliveira. I heard he was yapping and saying he had an injury when we fought. Last time I checked, when they did a follow-up and they wanted to find out what the injury was, there was no injury report on it. They said he was fine, so I have no idea what the hell he's talking about." Those comments, as you might expect, didn't sit quietly with Oliveira. Known for wearing his heart on his sleeve and speaking his mind, Daukaus wasted no time in setting the record straight. In a recent interview with Thunderpick, Oliveira fired back saying, "Man, I think everyone wants to see that fight. It's definitely gonna happen at some point. Whatever people say doesn't really matter to me. Everybody knows I was injured. I spent 2 days in the hospital. Why would I do that for nothing? That's just part of the game. He's a great fighter, he's the BMF champ, so why not make it happen later on? For now, let's stay focused on this fight and then we'll see." Oliveira's words carry the tone of someone who's not looking for excuses, but rather clarity, and maybe a little redemption. It's also clear he's not letting the trash talk throw him off course. Right now, his attention is firmly locked on Rafael Fiziev, the dangerous striker he's set to face at UFC Rio on October 11th. Fiziev presents his own set of challenges, and Oliveira knows that looking past him could be a costly mistake. But make no mistake, the idea of Oliveira and Holloway sharing the octagon again is very much alive. The history, the controversy, and the verbal back and forth have built a natural storyline that fight fans would love to see play out. It's the kind of fight that checks all the boxes: unfinished business, elite-level talent on both sides, and the potential for fireworks from the opening bell. For now, we'll have to wait and see what happens after UFC Rio. But if Oliveira gets past Fiziev and Holloway continues to make noise, don't be surprised if the UFC starts working behind the scenes to make this long-awaited rematch happen. Before moving to the next news, we have one quick request for you. We're constantly working on improving our content to earn your love and support. That's why we truly appreciate it if you could take just a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Now shifting gears, Drius Daukaus has made a bold prediction about the upcoming middleweight clash between Nassourdine Imavov and Caio Borralho. This fight is set to take place at UFC Paris on September 6, and for European fight fans, it's shaping up to be one of the more intriguing matchups on the card. Both men are on solid runs, each bringing their own unique skill set into the octagon, but Daukaus has already picked a side. Speaking to CBS Sports, the reigning middleweight champion gave his breakdown. He said, "Imavov has put in some good work, and Caio Borralho, I rate him. I think he's a really good fighter. I do think Caio Borralho beats Imavov in my opinion. I think he's more all around. Neither one of those fights really gets me excited right now. I'm fighting Khamzat Chimaev this Saturday. That's the only thing that gets me excited right now." It's clear that Daukaus isn't underestimating either man, but his focus is entirely locked on the task in front of him, his high-stakes bout with Khamzat Chimaev. Still, his praise for Borralho didn't go unnoticed. Caio has been making waves in the division with his composure, technical approach, and well-read abilities. In contrast, Imavov has a sharp striking arsenal and a knack for controlling range, which could make this matchup a chess game with moments of explosive action. But according to Daukaus, Borralho's versatility and complete skill set give him the edge. Beyond that prediction, Daukaus also touched on someone he knows well, Reinier de Ridder. The two go way back to their days competing in the South African MMA scene, and it's clear there's a personal respect between them. "I like Reinier on a personal level," Daukaus explained. He was in the organization that I fought in here in South Africa. He's a good guy, he's a good fighter. Du Plessis went further, acknowledging the criticism de Ridder has faced over the years. There's similarities. People think, oh, he's never going to do this. Oh, he looks terrible. He's been proving everybody wrong. He's been doing everything he said he was going to do, so I'm impressed with that. It's not often you hear a champion give such open credit to a peer, but Du Plessis clearly respects de Ridder's ability to deliver on his promises, even when doubters were loud. However, the South African made one thing very clear. He doesn't think a win over de Ridder automatically earns someone a title shot. I think he has ways to go still, Du Plessis said. Robert Whittaker beating him right now doesn't earn you that title shot. It's a blunt assessment, but Du Plessis is a man who calls it as he sees it. While he's willing to give props where they're due, he's also not shy about drawing the line when it comes to what qualifies as championship-level contention. For now though, all of that talk will have to wait, because his focus is entirely on Khamzat Chimaev this Saturday. Speaking of fighters and calling people out, Dan Hooker has gone off on Charles Oliveira. The tension between these two lightweights just jumped to another level after Oliveira made some pointed claims. According to Du Bronx, multiple top fighters including Hooker turned down a fight with him in Brazil. Earlier this week, speaking to AG Fight, Oliveira didn't hold back. He said, "Which of the top guys would come fight me in Brazil? None of them would come here to fight in Brazil. You know what's going to happen today? Tomorrow, when you release this clip, a bunch of them will say, I would. But in reality, I'm not a guy who goes around playing games. I was offered names and they didn't even want it. So today, when you release this, these guys will tweet, 'Coward, I wanted it. He didn't want it.' But it's a lie. My whole life it's been like this. They poke around, talk from the other side. When I say, 'Come on, I'm here,' they take it and run the other way." And then came the part that directly lit the fuse with Hooker. Dan Hooker, this guy has also been just talking for a long time. The soap opera you already know, it's been going on for years. He talked and talked and talked and it never happened. So really it's all talk. He talked a lot of nonsense, but when he's called he doesn't go. That was enough to get Hooker's full attention and his full response. Speaking to Sky Sport, the Hangman fired back with heavy sarcasm and a sharp tongue. False accusations. You think that's really how that phone call went? They said, "Do you want to fight semi-conscious Charles Oliveira?" And I said, "Oh no, I'm scared of Charlie Olive's lifeless body floating around the cage." No, I was never offered that fight. I require medical clearance. He did not medically clear me for October, he cleared me for November. Hooker then cranked up the intensity, taking aim at Oliveira's health following his last fight. Now, I don't know if he can give me Doc Doolittle's number or whatever veterinary clinic he went to sign off on his brain, because if you put his brain in an MRI machine, it would still be mashed potatoes. I don't know who watched his last fight against Ilia Topuria and saw the back of his head bounce off the mat like a bouncy ball and then said, "You know what, I would like to see him next for a fight in 6 weeks." The choice of words here shows just how personal this has become. Hooker didn't just deny Oliveira's claims, he outright ridiculed them, while also questioning the idea that Oliveira should be taking a fight so soon after a damaging loss. This war of words is unlikely to cool down anytime soon. Both fighters have big personalities, sharp tongues, and fan bases that would love to see them settle this inside the cage. Whether or not the UFC books it, the verbal shots being exchanged are already heating things up in the lightweight division. Over in the heavyweight division, Tom Aspinall is giving some huge props to Drius Du Plessis. Even though oddsmakers have Du Plessis heading into his upcoming bout as the betting underdog, Aspinall sees something special, something championship-worthy. In fact, the heavyweight champ believes Du Plessis could be on the verge of a legendary title run. During a recent sit-down with UFC on TNT, Aspinall explained his growing admiration for the South African middleweight. "The more I watch DDP, the less I know about him. I will never ever think that DDP is going to lose again. He just finds a way to win." That's a strong endorsement coming from a reigning champion who knows what it takes to reach the top. Aspinall pointed out that Du Plessis doesn't always win the traditional way, but his unpredictability, grit, and ability to adjust mid-fight make him a nightmare for anyone standing across from him. And as fight week officially got underway, the intrigue only grew. In Chicago, Du Plessis and his opponent, Khamzat Chimaev, crossed paths backstage. While some might have expected tension or verbal fireworks, The meeting stayed surprisingly respectful. Still, footage of the exchange spread quickly across social media, racking up thousands of views. Fans immediately began speculating on whether the cordiality will hold once the octagon door closes, or if the fight itself will ignite some genuine animosity. Meanwhile, outside the cage, UFC President Dana White dropped a bombshell update on a groundbreaking event. Appearing on CBS Mornings, Dana confirmed that the UFC's planned White House show is not just a rumor, it's locked in. Even more shocking, the event will be broadcast live and free across the country on CBS on July 4th. For context, CBS is home to massive sports broadcasts like the Super Bowl and the NCAA Basketball Final Four, so the UFC getting this prime platform is a monumental deal. Dana hinted that this could be part of an even bigger celebration, with talks underway to tie the event into America's 250th birthday festivities next summer. When pressed on whether this was really going to happen, Dana was emphatic. "It is definitely going to happen. I talked to him last night, him being the president, and I'm flying out there at the end of this month. I'm going to sit down and walk him through all the plans and the renderings, and we're going to start deciding what he wants and doesn't want. But yeah, it's definitely going to happen." Think about this: July 4th, 250th birthday of the United States of America, live on CBS from the White House. Yeah. If all goes according to plan, the UFC will not only make history inside the octagon, but also in the political and cultural arenas, staging a fight card at one of the most iconic locations in the world. Between du Plessis chasing glory in the cage and the UFC preparing for a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle, it's clear the second half of the year is shaping up to be unforgettable. And finally, perhaps the biggest bombshell shaking the MMA world right now, Jon Jones reportedly turned down a staggering $30 million for a fight with Tom Aspinall. Yes, you read that right, $30 million on the table, and Jones said no. This revelation came during a recent episode of Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast, where renowned MMA journalist Ariel Helwani was the featured guest. During the conversation, Logan brought up the much-discussed Jones versus Aspinall situation and asked Ariel point-blank what really went down. That's when Helwani dropped the headline-making detail: the UFC offered Jones $30 million to face the surging British heavyweight, and he declined. Helwani elaborated, saying, "Do you think Jones has been ducking him? Yes. I don't like that word because I think it's disrespectful toward him, but I think he didn't want to fight him, and I think it was a calculated decision on his part. Why did you drag this out all the way until June when you knew you weren't going to fight him?" He gave the UFC a number. "I believe it's in the $30 million range for this fight." Which, by the way, I think he deserves. He didn't think they would come up with the number, and they did. Logan, visibly shocked, pressed for more, and Ariel continued with another layer to the story. "Yes. And I believe Saudi Arabia was involved. The big dogs were involved." And he said yes. And then 2 days later, 3 days later, whatever, he said, "Nah, on second thought, I'm out." And that's why when he announced his retirement, Dana said he gave me his word, and then he went back on his word. I think he was hoping that they would not meet the number, and then he could be like, "Hey guys, I tried." Because that's what happened with the Francis Ngannou fight. He threw out a massive number, they said no, and then the fight fizzled. This time they said yes. If Helwani's account is accurate, it paints a fascinating picture of the high-stakes chess game that happens behind the scenes in MMA. $30 million is an almost unheard-of purse for an MMA fight, and with Aspinall riding high as the interim heavyweight champion, this could have been one of the biggest bouts in UFC history. Instead, fans are left with what-ifs, unanswered questions, and plenty of speculation about Jones's motives. Some argue Jones is protecting his legacy, choosing not to risk it against a dangerous, unpredictable opponent like Aspinall. Others think the decision is purely about timing, that Jones might still want the fight, but on his terms when the circumstances feel more favorable. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain: this decision has lit a fire under the MMA community, with fans and fighters alike weighing in on whether Jones made a smart move or missed out on a career-defining moment. And if there's one thing we can say about the fight game, it's that the drama outside the cage can rival the action inside it. From Oliveira and Holloway's unresolved history, to Hooker and Oliveira exchanging verbal jabs, to du Plessis earning predictions and respect, to Jones walking away from a colossal payday, MMA refuses to give us a dull news cycle. With massive cards on the horizon, UFC Rio, UFC Paris, and even the potential history-making White House event, the road ahead is looking absolutely unmissable.